one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Miss Dong? She's here. Miss Nunez?
Present.
Miss Quintero?
Present.
Mr. Taylor?
Present.
Miss Hernandez?
Present.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve this the agenda.
I second the motion.
Roll call.
Miss Dong?
Yes.
Miss Nunez?
Yes.
Miss Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Miss Hernandez?
Aye. Do we have any governing board comments, Ms. John?
Not at this time.
Mr. Taylor?
Not at this time.
Ms. Quintero?
I do. I want to give everybody the Patience of a Saint award, because on these windy days, I know how bad kids can get when it's so hyper. So thank you for being who you are. It's like, I went to a couple schools today, but the kids were really well behaved. And even though it was super windy, and it was me who wanted to get in that car and roll out that window. but yeah, you all work so hard, and it's really patient. Your patience is like used up to the max when on windy days. So, and hopefully tomorrow won't be so bad. So thank you for all you do.
Yeah, I just wanted to say first, thanks for the district for sending us to the conference in San Diego. There was some really awesome stuff that I was really excited about. So thank you for sending us, Mr. Holmes. That was really awesome. And again, I know being an educator is super hard in April because it's a no break month, right? And it's like the only month we don't get any breaks. So we're almost there to the end. Hang on. Thank you.
Superintendent's report?
Yes. President Hernandez, members of the governing board, members of the audience. I'd like to start by congratulating our Esperanza rock stars. So each week, teachers select outstanding students at Esperanza Elementary to be recognized for their attendance, helpfulness, and efforts. And through donations from community partnerships, students receive coupons for special treats they are also highlighted on the school social media pages. So I'd like to congratulate all the Esperanza Rockstar students for earning this recognition. You can see a picture up there. Mm-hmm. We also have some outstanding scholars. This is a season for shining some light on our high school seniors as they prepare for life after high school. Today I'd like to recognize just a few of our outstanding scholars. Ernesto Jacobo was recently awarded the Dell Scholarship, which awarded him $20,000 to help cover tuition, as well as additional money for textbooks and a laptop. Ernesto will attend the University of Arizona next year and plans to major in landscape architecture. Prestigious Dell Scholarship. Victor Bigdoret has been awarded the W.A. Frankie Scholarship, which is a merit-based 4-year award up to $15,000 a year for exceptional students admitted to the W.A. Frankie Honors College. So congratulations. I can't believe he's a senior. Victor's Mr. Big Bador's son. Yaritza Durazo has been awarded the prestigious Flynn Scholarship, which is a competitive merit-based scholarship for Arizona high school seniors. Over 1,000 students applied for only 20 Flynn scholarships that were awarded. The scholarship will cover tuition, housing, meals, a membership into the Honors College, as well as additional funding for seminars, workshops, and the study abroad experience. Yaritza will be attending the University of Arizona, an amazing scholarship opportunity. And then our wonderful Christopher Flores was awarded $67,000 scholarship to Williams College in Williamstown, Massachusetts, including a work-study stipend and opportunity to study abroad, which he says he will most definitely pursue. So some wonderful students coming out and getting some wonderful awards. Congratulations, all of you. And then lastly, of course, our number one female racer, congratulations to Audrey Jimenez, who went 4-0 to win the 106-pound title of the Journeyman's World Classic in Troy, New York, bringing back with her the Hammer Award for being the top female wrestler.
Nice.
Audrey is a 2-time state champion, and we know she'll continue to excel not only on the mat, but academically. She'll be graduating a year early, so she'll be graduating next year so that she can actually compete in the Olympics. So congratulations, Audrey. That concludes our superintendent's report.
Thank you. And can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda as submitted.
I second the motion.
Roll call.
Ms. Dong,
Yes.
Ms. Nunez,
Aye.
Ms. Quintero,
Aye.
Mr. Taylor,
Aye.
Ms. Hernandez.
Aye.
Thank you.
And first item on the agenda. Oh, wait, I have to approve this. Can I get, after the presentation? Yeah, so we have the fiscal year 2021 annual comprehensive financial report for Mr. Encinas.
Thank you, President, Ms. Hernandez. Governing Board Member, Superintendent Holmes. It's a time of the year again that we come to the Governing Board with the annual financial comprehensive report presented by the audit firm of Highfield and Meach, who completed the audit itself. And tonight, Representative Chris Heinfeld from Highfield and Meach will be presenting the report to the Governing Board for your review and approval. So.
Good evening, Governing Board members, Board President Hernandez, and Superintendent Holmes. It's great to be here, so thank you for inviting our firm to come and present not only the annual comprehensive financial report, but the other supplemental audit reports and compliance questionnaires that come along with it. I'm just going to go over a few things pertaining to the audit this year, and please feel free to let me know if you do have any questions during the process. So initially, our audit timeline, can't believe it, but it starts all the way back in May. We issue the engagement letter. It's sort of the opening contract of our audit engagement, what we're here to perform, and our duties versus what management's of the district's responsibilities are. From there, we perform some preliminary fieldwork items in June, and then as well as some interim fieldwork items in August, and those are actually on-site visits in which we're visiting the district and reviewing documentation. And then we conclude the actual audit in November and then issue a draft of the financial statements along with our auditor's report to management in December, and then actually issue the report in December. After that, though, we actually do some additional audit procedures related to state compliance as well as federal compliance, and those concluded at the end of March. So as you can see, it's sort of this full year-long process in which we present to the board each year in April, but we're sort of right back at it next month doing it again. It's a constant cycle. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is what we call our governance. Yeah, go ahead. Perfect. Our governance communication letter. And the items on these slides are going to sort of correspond to that communication letter. It's a 3-page letter that hopefully you guys got, and then it had 2 different attachments related to it, an engagement letter and a representation letter. So the first thing is just detailing our audit services that we're performing. Our audits performed in accordance with GAAP, but also government auditing standards and uniform guidance. We're also performing, like mentioned, the Uniform System of Financial Records, or the USFR Compliance Questionnaire. Typically in this letter, we touch on any significant changes in accounting principles that would affect the financial statements. Thankfully, this year there were none. And then we'd conclude by looking at significant estimates on that first page. And there's 3 listed there: useful lives of depreciation, the estimated value for insurance claims incurred but not yet reported, and then lastly, the actuarial valuations for pension plans. These are the 3 estimates made by management or outside third parties that management uses. Significant audit adjustments are required to be disclosed to the governing board. Ultimately, you are the ones that we report to. Thankfully, none of the audit adjustments we made this year were significant enough to require reporting a formal finding for. However, we did list a few small items that we noted during the course of the audit, just relating to cleaning up some capital asset items and cash reconciliation items. These corrections were made by management, and as mentioned, they were not significant or material enough to be reported as a finding, but significant enough to be reported to you, and those are included on page 2 of the governance letter. Some additional non-audit services that we perform that we're required to communicate to management include preparing the actual financial statements as well as the schedule of financial awards, and then submitting some of this information through the Federal Audit Clearinghouse through what we call a data collection process. We always like to remind board members as well as management that our ultimate responsibility is to perform an audit over the financial statements to provide reasonable assurance that they're materially correct. Now, we do inquiries with management, governing board members, and other employees, whether there's any fraud related at the district or occurring or allegations. However, the goal of the audit isn't ultimately to find every little piece of fraud. Unfortunately, we'd love to do that. We'd just be out here with 20 people every single day digging through everything. But we do inquire and perform test work procedures to ensure that if there was significant fraud happening, we would discover it during the course of our audit. Attached to that governance communication letter is actually a fraud checklist we like to provide our governing board members for clients that we perform our audit procedures for, to inform you of procedures that you may do at your district to ensure that if fraud or allegations of fraud occurs, you are able to respond to it and identify it. Other required communications, and this is usually the fun part, if we had any disagreements with management, we disclose them. We didn't, which is great. If we had any issues with any communication with management, we disclose it, which is great. We didn't have any issues with that. And we always do assess our independence throughout the course of the audit to make sure we are independent from the district and performing an independent audit. We issued 3 different reports during the course of this audit: the annual comprehensive financial report, the single audit reporting package, which really focuses on federal compliance, and the USFR compliance questionnaire, which is state compliance. Now, I'll briefly highlight a few sections of those. Page 13 of the annual comprehensive financial report is our independent auditor's report. We issued what we call a clean opinion or an unmodified opinion. Page 17 starts management's discussion and analysis. This is a great place for just a year-to-year comparison of how the district's doing. Page 25 starts the basic financial statements. There's 2 different sections, one that we call the government-wide financial statements, and these focus on the district as a whole, and another section in which we call the fund financial statements, which looks at individual buckets of funds that the district has received. The next section is the notes to the financial statements, really expanding on information in those basic financial statements and providing guidance to the readers as necessary. Then there's the required supplementary information and supplementary information sections. They're just additional information, additional financial statements to supplement what's already in the report. And the last section is the statistical section. One of my favorite sections. It usually provides around 10 years of information. So a great way to look how the district has changed over the last 10 years, how revenue has increased or decreased, expenses have increased or decreased, and items like that. The next report we issued was a single audit reporting package. This is where if we did have any findings that were significant and material in internal controls, whether it be related to federal, state, or financial statements, we disclose them here. I'm happy to report there are none. The most important pages in this document is page 9. It's this, I think it's the 3rd to last page of the document, and it really provides a summary of that the opinion on the financial statements was unmodified or clean, that there weren't any findings in internal controls, that there weren't any findings in major federal programs related to the federal portion audit, and then it would also disclose the major federal programs. This year we audited the Coronavirus Relief Fund, which is referred to in the state of Arizona as the Education Stabilization Grant, or ESG. We also performed audit procedures over the Education Stabilization Fund, not to be confused with the Education Stabilization Grant. So the Education Stabilization Fund is your ESSER grants, so ESSER 1, ESSER 2, ESSER 3, your GEAR monies. And then the Supporting Effective Instruction State Grants, which formerly used to be called the Improving Teacher Quality Grants. So obviously a lot of acronyms and names you got to keep track of here, but really just diving into some of the newer federal programs as well as some of the older ones as well, and ensuring compliance with those requirements. And then last year, the district did have a finding in their single audit reporting package, and we gave a status update this year that that finding has been corrected. The last report we issued was the Uniform System of Financial Records, or USFR Compliance Questionnaire. This is a questionnaire issued by the state of Arizona and unique to the state of Arizona. About 200 questions. There's probably more, about 500 questions. They sort of embed them in there and do multiple tiers, ranging over 18 different categories, whether it be related to governing board procedures, student activities, just general cash in revenue. And then the audit firms are required to go through and answer yes, no, or NA to all those questions. Then lastly, I'm just proud to comment on how helpful Hector and his team has been throughout this process this last year, and especially the last 2 years. It obviously hasn't been easy for anybody, and we know getting an audit done or getting an audit performed is probably at the bottom of everybody's list, but the district has been very helpful in ensuring that it's completed timely and appropriately. The state actually extended the deadlines until the end of September, but the typical deadline is the end of March, and I'm glad to report that everything was submitted on time and ahead of schedule. So at this point, I'll open it up to any questions or comments or concerns that you may have.
Does anyone have any questions? Ms. Young?
Yes, I just want to say, year after year after year, we go through these, and way back in the day, there was quite a few findings of little things, nothing super major most of the time, just little things here and there and here and there and there and there, but a lot of them. And it seems to me like over the last couple of years here, there's been fewer and fewer of those little items. And so I really want to thank Mr. Encinas and his team, because whenever you came and you gave us all these different little items, they worked on them, they worked on them, and they worked on them, to where there'll always be some, because you get new people coming in and they do something that isn't, how they're supposed to do it, not on, a purpose, but it's just that they don't realize it because they're new. And so we've got to work on that. And so there'll always be some little ones here and there, but I'm very impressed as to how every year, and this year also, there's fewer and fewer of those things that you find. And so I wanted to publicly thank Mr. Encinas and his team for making sure that they keep on top of all the things that are going on out there in the school sites, which isn't easy because they're here and that's over there, but they're always keeping on top of what's going on the school sites. And I also want to thank the administrators at the school sites that also, once they find out that something has to be done in a certain way, they're making sure that their team at the school sites are in compliance. So I want to thank you for coming in and helping us with making sure that everything that we do is done properly.
Thank you, Governing Board Member Dong. And I think as auditors, we always don't do the best job at highlighting how great districts are when they are. And I think you put it perfectly, that the district has gotten better each year. And I was speaking to some of the team members at the end of this year's audit, and it was probably one of the best in terms of lack of findings, lack of exceptions, lack of non-compliance that we've had at this district in probably 7-8 years. And so definitely to be commended, Mr. Encinas and his staff, and like you said, it's sort of a group effort with the administrative personnel as well at the district, so everyone's deserving of that.
I just want to also thank everybody for doing a fantastic job, because out of 200 questions, we only got 20 wrong. It's like, so does that comply with an A for us for the district?
I would give you guys an A. I like to think there's 200, but it's really more like 500, and so you're really probably in that A, mid-A range, which is great.
Good job. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I don't know if you guys plan to vote to approve the
Yes.
report, but that is a new, I think the district's always done it, but it is a new requirement that districts and their governing board members are required to take a vote on the audits these years coming forward.
Right.
All right, great. Thank you guys for your time and patience, and please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions throughout the year. It seems like a year-long process, but we like to tell governing board members and district management that we're your auditors years round. If you have questions, please let us know. My contact information is in the slides, but you can reach out to the finance department as well if you need to get a hold of anyone on our audit team. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Ms. Hernandez?
Can I get a motion to approve?
Yes, Ms. Hernandez?
Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I would like to approve the 2021 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report as presented.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Dong,
Yes.
Ms. Nunez,
Aye.
Ms. Quintero,
Aye.
Mr. Taylor,
Aye.
Ms. Hernandez.
Aye. We have Dr. Williams and Ms. Benton from program update.
Evening, President Hernandez, Governing Board, Superintendent Holmes. Really excited tonight to give you a chance to have a long-awaited update to the SUN program. So Dr. Williams is going to give you an update, and also Amy Clark, who has been working in the program for quite a while, will also be participating in that piece.
Good evening, and thank you, Board President Hernandez, board members, Superintendent Holmes. So yeah, it's really exciting. It's always nice to be able to share some of the work that we're doing and giving you a little bit of background history on our journey in the last couple of years, especially before the pandemic, some work that we did as we were developing a new scope and sequence. So we'll share a little bit about that. Let me see. All righty. So just, you've probably had a moment to read through some of this, but just to give you a definition, the Arizona State Statute 15779 does require that we consider what our definition is for gifted education, and as appropriate, and our key points on our definition is as appropriate academic course offerings and services that are required to provide an educational program that is an integral part of the regular day and that is commensurate with the academic abilities and potentials of gifted students. So we really want to make sure that our students have access to evidence-based and research-based instruction that allows them to tap into their intelligence as well as skills that they have, and to be able to further explore a lot of that learning and instruction that taps into creativity, as well as their abilities to problem solve, thinking about big real world types of situations. The other piece of this work, and this is also highlighted when I speak a little bit later about the scope and sequence, is identifying and defining what a gifted and talented high potential students are. And in our scope and sequence, we came up with a definition that shows students have the potential or for showing an exceptional level of performance in one or more areas of expression. And this is also outlined when we review the National Gifted Standards for children. And that is really looking at their abilities as far as their academics, intellectual, artistic, leadership, and creativity. It is also a requirement of the Arizona State that we mandate students in the 9th percentile are students that are identified as gifted and talented. However, we also look at students who performed at the 7th and 8th Stay 9 because we want to ensure that a lot of times when students take assessments, and if you're familiar now, we're in the middle of state assessments, and these one-time point-in-time types of assessments sometimes doesn't always demonstrate or show what a student really knows. Testing can be a little bit nerve-wracking, stressful, a little bit, and so students don't always demonstrate what they're able to do. So we also use other information related to teacher observation, teacher recommendations based on what they see with their students in their classrooms on how they're performing and also demonstrating these skills of really wanting to perform well. I mean, perform beyond what the typical peers might be doing in a classroom. So all of those pieces of information is critically important in identifying students. And also we do significance. I've been able to go out and do some of the assessments with Amy and the other teachers when we were doing some work around the scope and sequence and trying to establish a Sunnyside norm. And and you really do find that sometimes in that testing situation or when they're online, students who you've seen them may not do quite as well. So I really am glad that this team has really thought about all the ways that we can really look at a child who may be gifted and talented. And I just want to add a side note because Amy also spends time with our school psychologists because every once in a while we'll come across a student who's being evaluated in special education and their IQ might be such that it really falls within that range of giftedness. And so that's another area where we really are trying to do a tremendous amount of work so we're not missing those students who might be twice exceptional as well. So I'm going to go ahead and let Amy talk a little bit more to the program and the number of students in our program.
Do you want to do the button?
Or you want me to do it for you?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
I'm the K-1 gifted teacher, so I don't spend a lot of time with technology. I'm usually on the floor working with the kids. So I apologize for that. Just to let you know our numbers, we did start a lot lower without being able to test for a year and a half. Our kindergarten population right now is at 25 identified. We probably have just doubled that this last week. With the state testing going on, our teachers oftentimes have their classrooms used or canceled because the kids are taking tests. So we put a lot of emphasis on getting the K-1 and second graders tested who are still waiting to be tested. And again, first grade has also grown probably about 18 more kids, and we still have more to test. So our numbers are pretty good for this year. We have had over 425 referrals, and for the majority of those kids, we've already have tested. The testing does take 3 days for the primary level and 2 days for the intermediate level, and we spend probably about 6 hours on each child's file with scoring, norming, testing, the pre-tests, and then getting all the teachers' paperwork because we really want to have that input from the teachers. The test only gives us a score of the child taking the test. It's everything else that we need to know. A lot of the philosophy behind our program goes with Dr. Joseph Renzulli, who talked about how intelligence was measured by actually 3 different things. You had to have high motivation, you had to have a high creativity, but you also had to have a high ability level. And where those 3 rings cross is where we find our kids. And that's why we've gone down to the 7th day 9. We actually, in our classrooms, oftentimes these kids are qualified in kindergarten or first grade, and by the time they've been in the program for a couple of years, you really can't tell the difference between a 9th day 9 child and a 7th day 9 child. So it's something that we're very proud of in this district. As far as ethnicity levels, when we did the scope and sequence, we were pretty much on par with the district breakdown. And that was something also that we were excited to see and proud that we've seen it. Cluster model group. We do have one cluster model right now over at Craycroft where the teachers are identifying the grade levels 2nd, 3rd, 4th. We do have a 5th grade teacher, but she has not gotten her endorsement yet. But those children identified at Craycroft are placed into those classrooms. I take care of the K-1 at Craycroft. The itinerant program, we serve all 14 elementary and middle school, the Gallego Intermediate and Sierra with our team. And the magnet self-contained groups are
second through third at Gallego Primary and 4 through 5 at the intermediate program. Those children are identified basically through test scores, but I also go in and talk to teachers because, again, not all of those test scores are what's most important about putting a child in that program. We want them to be successful, we want them challenged, and we want it to be the appropriate placement. The scope and sequence that we worked on was a kind of a challenging task. We really had to analyze and look at our program, and I think the one thing that we found doing a lot of that information was some of the weak places. And unfortunately with COVID, parent contact is someplace I really feel that we need to be a lot stronger with. Usually at the beginning of the year we have an open house where we invite new parents, come in and we give a speech and talk and have time for questions and answers about the program, which we haven't been able to do now for 2 years. And that's something that we are planning on making sure we do this coming August. The other part is oftentimes the last couple of years we haven't done it. We did do Sunnyside Meet itself, but we do want to get back to the Sun Showcase, where the students' projects are put on display, and that usually takes place about the end of April. We try and avoid the graduation and all that other stuff. But that was something I always felt like was really important. The board members would come, principals would come, teachers would come, families would come, and it was a huge event when we were at Gallego Primary. We would fill parking lots, but that's something that we need to get back to. We do make sure that our teachers are available for parent-teacher conferences with the regular ed classrooms, and we do make sure that we have a time in January. We do a semester report card, and that is in the end of January, where we do have parent conferences, either by phone. This year, it was Google Meets, and are available. Oftentimes we do get stopped a lot by parents, like at Costco and things like that, and talk to them. But being out in the community is always a good thing. I used to attend football games and baseball games to meet with parents too. But just being available has been really important for us. And I think that's one thing we've kind of not been able to do a real decent job on. I think the other part is curriculum. We really need to take a hard look at our curriculum. This year, it was really not knowing exactly where the kids were going to be, the stress level, and things like that. We kind of planned to focus more about the social emotional needs of the children. We have a theme, and it rotates every year. This year was think globally and act locally. And whereas the kids found areas, it kind of felt like it was a heavy topic to go with. But one of our teachers, Nova Klein over at Drexel, has been doing food insecurities. And they've gone with a nutritionist from the University of Arizona taking classes through Zoom. They've got the gardener that works over at Desert View helping her, and she's going to be doing the same thing that she's doing at Drexel over at Rivera. And they have the area where there used to be a portable to be designated as a garden, and she's looking at getting funding for that. She's been working with the food bank to collect donations. We've got other kids that are working on persuasive letters to government officials about concerns they have with the community and things like that. We've got the Edison robots going on for decoding and things like that. We've also kind of, thank you to the Escher Funds, been really wanting to get books in kids' hands, getting away from the computers, having them do literature group studies. Some of the books that we've used are The Giver. We've used Crenshaw, and the other one is The Refugees, to talk about the needs. We also use Scholastic magazines to bring out the issues that are ongoing and do the basic problem solving and looking at those issues and figuring out how to do. We have one group of teachers that are working on the stock market and financial things and consumer math in the 6th grade. And another teacher who is doing We the People, and she's bringing in the university PhD history students as judges for the competition on April 28th, if anybody's interested. I kind of rattle on, I'm sorry.
Well, I definitely wanted to make sure that Amy was able to share just some of the experiences that students are gaining and stuff. And she's such a wonderful lead, so it's a wonderful partnership that we have and stuff working together. I thought I would just add a few more details related to the work we did around the scope and sequence, because every 4 years Arizona statutes do require that we do a scope and sequence update every 4 years. And 2 years ago, when we decided to embark on that, we brought in some consultants to also guide that work, because we felt like we wanted to make sure we did this work and including many stakeholders. So I think some of the board members were part of that when we had the board members come meet. We had parents, we had teachers, we had parents of students within our district, well, of course. And so that was really a powerful experience to go through that, to really think about the work and the kinds of things we wanted to work on as the future. And so as Amy highlighted, a few things that, really looking at our cluster programs and curriculum is really important. So in that process, what we did is we did collect surveys, and like I said, met with stakeholders and different focus groups. So as, that's okay. I was glad that you, so yeah, we definitely, because of that work, it's really, what are sort of the next steps and things that we wanted to do in place. And then of course the pandemic happened, so it's kind of put some things on hold. Although many of the planning and work around curriculum, that conversation continues and will continue with not only the itinerant teachers, but really looping in also our magnet teachers, so we have some cohesion, between what's going on in those magnet classes as well as the itinerant. As Amy said, historically, the team does a wonderful job in bringing parents together, so we definitely want to continue doing that and strengthening it. And then in that conversation, especially around the cluster programs, we began having conversations about middle school and what should be happening in middle school, because after 6th grade, it sort of drops off, and although the teachers really do follow their students until they get into high school and kind of have them thinking about like what kind of courses will they take in high school, is how could we do some real work around the middle school and maybe consider doing some clusters there. So that will be where we'll pick up. We started the conversations and actually had a few of our principals interested in doing that work, and then like I said, things just changed for us pretty rapidly. And then also maintaining longitudinal data. Definitely it was a great experience during that time, because we did establish an updated Sunnyside norm. So it really matched, the population of our students and gives us some information to think about, as we go forward. And then finally, a real focus on professional learning for our teachers. Teachers who do become part of the SUN team, it is a requirement for them to get their gifted endorsement, so we want to find pathways to help with that. So. All righty. Any questions?
Do we have any questions? Ms. Quintero?
Thank you. This was so great. My kids have been out of school for so long, but it was like really good to hear it's continuing the work. It's like, and it's really improved tremendously. So thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Nunez?
I just wanted to say thank you as well. Having a little one, especially in the district, it makes me feel happy, that everyone's really focusing on, especially like you said, finding those twice exceptional students and all those different clusters and for the middle school. So that's really exciting.
Oh.
So thank you for working so diligently with our kids.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Stone?
Yes, I just really want to thank you for the focus of improvement that you have. I think they're just right on getting the parents more engaged. I know that most of the disengagement was because of COVID, but it's good to know that it's not something you've forgotten. It's
correct.
really important that they're involved, not just at the elementary level, but at the middle school level. you know, that they continue to be involved with their students, as far as, you know, the learning aspects of the curriculum and everything else, that the parents are also a part of that, and they understand what it is that they're bringing home
Right.
and how they could possibly support them at home.
Right.
You know, what are the things that they can do to support them at home, not just, like I said, in elementary, but in middle school. So I was really glad to see that. I'll be interested to see, you know, when you talk about curriculum, maybe later on, after you start working more and more on that, maybe we can have a presentation on the types of curriculum that you're doing at the different levels. I would be very interested in seeing something like that. I know that, you know, COVID kind of put a little bit of a speed bump in that.
Right.
But as soon as you get that going again, I think it'd be really interesting to see the type of curriculum you have. But it sounds like, despite COVID, you guys, you know, did what you could to move forward and to work with the students and to make sure that that they were able to continue to you know, advance with their studies and do what they needed to do for their studies. So I appreciate all the hard work that you have all done, you and all your teachers, and all their staff, that the things that you have done to continue that and, you know, like I said, I feel that, you know, you guys are going in the right direction, and I'm just looking forward to seeing the curriculum.
Sounds good. Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much, board members. I apprate your comments, and we will definitely do that. Sorry, I missed
No,
you.
you're
I
okay.
am so sorry.
You're okay.
I know.
First of all, I want to thank you guys so much for giving this presentation. It's really cool to hear about how the program was doing. I was a Sun student from K through 8th. Actually, Miss Clark. Sorry, I'm so. Miss Clark was actually my Sun teacher, and I don't mean to put you on the spot here.
Isn't she amazing? And she does sit on the floor with the kids.
I think it was kindergarten.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was, not that long ago, but it was a while back. But it was, it was such an awesome program. I mean, at kindergarten, I had no idea what was going on. So when they kind of pulled me out of class for an hour, every day to go hang out in this other classroom with these other like-minded kids, it was something that was really, really interesting. And I didn't quite understand what the program was until we got a little bit older. And we started actually collaborating and, collaborating with our peers, building each other up, challenging each other. And I really have to credit this program for creating the individual that I am today. I don't look at things, in just a single view. I've got to look at it from all sides and all directions, and so it's really, really awesome. I'm still like lifelong friends with a lot of those kids, that grew up with me. So it's a great program, and I'm very, very happy that we offer that here. I have a few questions. So Sun used to be offered for 7th and 8th. This was maybe 7-8 years ago now. It's not anymore?
Not formally. We have classes in math and language arts at some schools that are advanced, and some kids can be placed in that. We don't place them. Test scores usually place them, or recommendations by teachers. But we do need to keep those kids, like-minded kids, as you said, and the support system that they can give each other through middle school, and then into high school, they have the choice of doing the honors classes and the AP class.
Okay, got you. And you had mentioned COVID. How are the Sun teachers? How did they handle it? How did they recover from it? I mean, did we gain Sun teachers? Did we lose Sun teachers from the program?
A little bit of both. We've got some retirees. And we did have somebody come back, thankfully. But it has been a little bit difficult, I think, being online with the kids. And then there was a little bit of apprehensive of bringing kids from all sorts of different classes all into one room when we first got started. And how to keep these kids, so these are all one teacher's kids, and then being able to do the collaboration. But things have eased up. And our teachers are pretty resourceful. I mean, if anything, because we don't get handed a curriculum, we have to create our own. And we have to hold ourselves to not only the state standards, but also the gifted standards. So we did a lot of fancy footwork there for a while, especially having them online, and then having to be able to pull them from their classrooms online into a classroom. And they managed very, very well. And a lot of times, it was nice for those kids to be able to have that time with like-minded peers in a smaller group to discuss. And sometimes the discussion ended up, showing pets and things like that. But,
Yeah. It was pretty amazing because, just across the district, going to an online, platform and meeting in Google Classrooms and things like that. So it was powerful because exactly like Amy was saying, seeing how the students, they were just really eager for some of that socialization again, and some of the conversations and thinking that goes on with those groups of students. So I think the teachers did a really outstanding job, and then also provided additional and enrichment types of activities, and because we knew sometimes there were those inconsistencies, and even that continued this year, so that if, for instance, students happen to go to SOSA online, we wanted to make sure that they still have an opportunity to be engaged and can tap into some of the, with their peers and whatnot.
Very good. What are we doing to recruit teachers to get their gifted endorsement and get in the program?
So word of mouth. I am attending the Southern Arizona Gifted Network, which is all the gifted coordinators from across Pima County and a little bit before further. So there are classes, workshops, ways of getting those credits towards your gifted endorsement. I'm hoping that we can get some training here this year and get some regular ed teachers excited about taking the courses, because in my mind, gifted education is just good teaching. There's nothing magical or anything about it. It's hard work and it's good. It is kind of daunting for a regular ed teacher to think I'm going to cover grades 2 through 6, and I'm going to have curriculum, and I'm going to have about 80 kids. That's kind of a lot to get them to attract them, but I think if we get the training, we'll get it.
Okay.
And one way that we would also try to tap into teachers, especially our gen ed teachers, is working with some of our, primarily right now, our elementary principals, because again, that was something where we're trying to expand the cluster programs beyond Craycroft, and just looking, and what we find is that often principals are really excited, so we can look at what are those grade levels that we could do spans, and then really help those teachers get the access to the professional learning so that they can get their endorsements.
I think one thing I'd like us to do is to do more presenting at staff meetings and having time to engage with groups of grade level teams. That was something that we used to do when we were a little bit smaller. It's been really difficult to spread out and be able to do that. But that's something I think would be really important.
Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have the NSBA annual conference recap. So, you want me to ask around? You want me to? Yeah. So this past last weekend, we were all given the opportunity to go to San Diego for the National School Boards Association conference. And so we're going to kind of give a little recap about what we learned, what we experienced. If anyone wants to go first. Ms. Nunez?
Well, this was my first experience going to like a national conference for the school board, so I was really excited to learn and see all the different things. It was super overwhelming, but I went to a lot of great sessions. I met a lot of great school board members from other places. It was nice, being able to collaborate, talk about kind of what they were going through, from people from Chicago, from Washington. So it was kind of nice being able to talk to other people. A session that I really liked that I went to was like on a bilingual ed school model in Topeka, Kansas. And I just thought it was really cool because it was like a whole school just dedicated to bilingual education, and they had like native speakers and native English and native Spanish, and it was just a really cool thing that I thought about, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting, and different ideas that I think would be cool kind of for this area. And then they had a lot of really nice like sessions that were for, I think, like really timely, like about, you know, like COVID and burnout, and what are we doing for our staff, and how we can just keep being resilient, and addressing like, you know, parent contact again, and how do we bring that back in, and how it's kind of faded away. So I really liked that it was focusing on a lot of stuff like that. There was also a lot of vendor ones, like the finance and data ones. Those are really not up my alley too much. But there was a lot of stuff offered, so that was really great too. But I learned so much, and I just wanted to thank the district for sending us, and it was really awesome meeting other educators, meeting other people on the school board, listening to them talk, you know, hearing their ideas, and just realizing that we're all kind of going through this and learning together. So that was nice.
Thank you. Ms. Stoll?
I agree. There was just so much happening over there. So many different sessions that were fantastic. It's always really hard. This is one of those conferences. It's always really hard to know where to go. There's so many sessions that are good, and you want to go to this, and they're all happening at the same time, and so that makes it a little bit difficult to choose. So I try to choose some things that I hadn't been to before or in a long time, because a lot of them, they're good sessions, but I have been to them, you know, over the years and stuff. So I wanted to try some different ones. And one of the ones that I looked at is because of hearing so much from our teachers about all the absenteeisms of colleagues, and how they have to go in and take their planning times and teach instead of using the planning time, which I feel is also a time to decompress from all the things that they're doing. So it makes it really hard. So there's something that I went and learned about, but you know, I think it's something that you could bring to the staff and bring to IBB, and that's this thing that's out there, this company that they have teachers that teach. They're real teachers that are certified, some master level. Some of them, many of them are master level teachers. And for whatever reason, they decided not to be inside of a classroom, but they do the virtual teaching. In other words, it's a person that's live there. And one that's inside the classroom are the assistants, the teacher assistants. But there's a live, and the reasons it's good, first of all, you know, if there's a school that has a lot of absenteeisms because of the, you know, COVID that's been happening, or for whatever reason, it helps in that respect. But also what they have, which was really good, like I said, they were master teachers, is they have like physics teachers, chemistry teachers. And how hard is it sometimes to get a physics teacher? And you can have it's not a long-term sub. This is a genuine physics teacher, you know, that has all the credentials. And, you know, we don't need a lot of a physics teacher all the time to you know, a lot of different physics teachers, but we need to teach a physics class in order for our kids to do well in some programs, and in order to do well in colleges and stuff like that. So this is just something that you might want to take to IBB and see that it's something that they're interested in. They have, yeah, they do. They have all these different kinds of teachers. And they're, like I said, they're mastered teachers. Some of them have bachelors, but a lot of them have the masters. They just decided that it's time now not to be in a classroom, you know, for maybe their health or whatever it is. And so they're teaching now, but it's live. And so it's like if you just have a live teacher on this big screen, and then the assistant is helping with any little questions that, you know, that might be coming up, or classroom management. So we would have to teach classroom management to the teacher assistants. But other than that, you know, it sounded really interesting. It sounded like a possibility of something that could help, you know, as far as Right now, our staff has been really, really stressed out with COVID for themselves, for their families, the things going on with their families, things going on in the classrooms. And so there's a lot of absenteeism and there's a lot of shortage. One of the first things they talked about were the statistics of the shortage of teachers, which is, incredible. And what's going to happen in the next couple of years is even worse. They're just not, they're not in the classroom at the universities. So they're not going to be in the classrooms at your school sites. And so this is just something to alleviate that, with that. The other thing was a program that I went to that I'd like to, just talk about a little bit here. And that's for social needs. So, when with all this COVID stuff that's going on, as we have seen, things are really, really difficult in the classrooms right now, in the playgrounds, in the schools in general. A lot of mental health stress is happening. And this thing that's really neat, we are doing an incredible job. I think, talking to, like you said, other board members from other schools, other states, Sunnyside is doing a fantastic job when it comes to that, when it comes to working with the mental health issues, the stress issues, the depressions of our students. I think we're doing a fantastic job. But there is another program that helps also for when the Jamals of the world aren't right in front of you, and you're home and you need something. There's a program where there's a social workers online, and they work with the parents, very strongly working with the parents on their social needs of their students, of their children. And also there's another part of that works with the child themselves. And if a child is having a really difficult day, they can go on to this program and talk to somebody and, be able to express themselves and be able to get that out. Because we have a shortage too of social workers and mental health workers and counselors, psychiatrists, psychologists. We have a shortage of all of that. And this program helps to be another part. It's not, what we're doing here, we wouldn't stop, but it would just be something extra to do. At least definitely for right now, while we have such a high incidences of depressions through the adults and the children. I mean, at my work, that's one of the main things that I'm hearing from my clients when I ask them, do they have any physical disabilities, mental, because I need to know, where to steer them as far as jobs are concerned. And a lot of them now are telling me depression. I have depression. And these are the adults. So for them to be there for their children is hard because they're having a hard time themselves. The last thing is really quick, was just a fun thing, but really neat. Is one of the luncheons, the luncheon that I went to, the guest speaker was a guy that he discovered or invented rather. He invented the hot Cheetos. Those hot Cheetos. We all know about those hot Cheetos because that's in the kids' hands all the time. This guy was incredible. He talked about, he was a custodian that did not graduate from high school. And right now he's multi-millionaire. And he goes and talks to a lot of students. And the students say, why do I have to finish high school? You did it. And he tells them, can you imagine if I had? Look at what I've done. But can you imagine how much more I would be able to do if I had myself in education? And he talks to not just students, but he talks to all kinds of businesses. And, he was just such an incredible motivational speaker. And, I just, we all laughed through the whole luncheon. And we all just enjoyed it so much, because his story about his life was incredible. He grew up in a barrio, not much of an education, became back then, a lot of people didn't have education, could still get a lot of jobs, and he became a custodian at a school. And then, little by little, he invented the hot Cheetos, the real one, the one with the tiger. And now he's a multi-millionaire. So that one was fun. But yeah, it was just an incredible conference, and yeah, I'm really grateful that I was able to go and learn so much. So thanks everybody for that.
Thank you, Ms. Dong. One of the cool things that I really enjoy about these conferences is the networking part of it. I have, now I can say, that I genuinely have friends and allies, not just here in Arizona, but across the country, someone that I can reach out to. If anything ever comes up, in terms of governing and I need help and I have a question, or, I can reach out to this person and say, hey, how would you handle this and why? And being able to do that, and get a different perspective, somebody who's unbiased, is just such a treasure. And I'm so glad that that I was able to network with a lot of these people, a lot of these school board members across the country. There were so many sessions, and this convention center was like mega. It was ridiculous. I'm surprised I didn't lose more weight, but it was great. One of the sessions that I went to and I actually really did enjoy was about governance. It was how do we engage students in the in our governance? How do we elevate that student voice in our decision making? And there was a panel of students, of board members, and the big discussion was having a student board member and having them sit at the table, having them help guide our decisions, right? Because it's not so much our education as it is theirs, And so I think it's really important having that, such a huge stakeholder, having them at the table. So it was really cool to see what other districts are doing across the country with that, and ways that we can lift up that student voice in the decision making. So that was one that I really did enjoy. San Diego was beautiful. The weather was beautiful, and it was awesome to. It was just such a great experience. So I want to thank the district for giving us that opportunity to attend. Thank you.
Just before I forget, because we were talking about networking, we need business cards.
Oh yeah.
I know.
You should have some.
Really?
I think we need some. Just throwing that out there.
We'll get it.
Okay.
We'll get them.
I was like, you can have my Instagram, my Facebook, but I can't give you a business card. So, go on ahead.
Just one last thing, you were talking about meeting all the board
No,
members.
you're
You've all
good.
talked, and how we learn from them. Well, IBB,
Yeah.
interest-based bargaining for Sunnyside School District, came about because board members went to a San Diego conference, and during one of the evening, get-togethers, like I think it was the caucus receptions from all the different caucuses, board members were telling us about interest-based bargaining from where they were from, whichever state that was. I don't remember that, but we heard about it. And we go, wow, that sounds interesting. And so we started, when we came back, researching it a little bit. Before we knew it, Sunnyside then went from meet and confer to interest-based bargaining. So you do learn so much, not just in the sessions, but also with networking with people. Thank you.
Mr. Holmes.
I'll be brief. Just some of the session titles I went to some colleagues that were presenting on their profile of a graduate. It was interesting because you had a K-8 district. There was because it's not a graduate, so they had profile of an 8th grader, and so they had different kind of takes on that. But I think there continues to be great interest in that area. We have our iteration currently of our profile of a graduate, but it continues to be kind of the North Star for many districts, and a lot of them shared specifically in governing board members, how that's helped them kind of keep things focused on what they've developed collectively. I also attended a student voice one, Mr. Taylor, that was more geared towards, it started with a group of students really want to get involved in equity policy. And so that then merged into kind of some policy, kind of student voice processes for policy decision making with governing boards, led by a governing board member with these students. So that was a real similar, but more specific to policy decisions. Then I went to the First Amendment. Just a lot of the cases that have either just recently went or going to the Supreme Court. They were of important notice. I was one of the packed ones because you had the NSBA group who was actually legal counsel who was running that particular. So they talked about specifically cases that are on mass use in districts and district funds. That was the Arizona case. They talked about using district funds for private schools. That's another case that's pending. School board censorship, board members censoring themselves. Student free speech, that was that Snapchat one with the cheerleader. And then football coaches praying on the field specifically. So all these cases have kind of been in this flux of back and forth, which could have implications for us. So we're keeping an eye on those, but that was something that was on the table. And lastly, kind of addressing the opportunity gap. I was curious what that was about. Mr. Hernandez and I attended that, and it was really more specific to internships and career pathways. I saw a lot of what we're currently doing right now in our district, but I think there were some ideas there that as we continue to iterate, we can look more about those internships opportunities that there. Other companies are doing in other states as well that we want to make sure we're getting that same kind of support. But very, very worthwhile. The weather was not great, but I was expecting much more sun, so we didn't get that. But that's okay. We got what we got. So, but it was good. We got the drizzle. So I appreciate it. So thank you all for attending. I appreciate you all attending all the sessions. I thought it was a great opportunity to get together and really think and collaborate around what's happening nationally around school board governance. So thank you.
I just want to add one thing. The keynote speaker for this conference was, his name's Damon John. He's one of the sharks from Shark Tank. He's such a great speaker. He told a very inspirational story. And one thing I like to look out for in public speakers is how many times they say the word And I mean, he spoke for a good hour, and not once did he say the word So I got to get some speaking tips from this guy, because that's pretty cool. So thank you, Mr. Holmes. Can I get a motion to enter executive session, Ms. Dong?
I move that we have move into executive session for discussion of personnel pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A1.
Can I get a second?
Put it on. I will second that.
Thank you. Roll call.
Ms. Dong?
Yes.
Ms. Nunez?
Aye.
Ms. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
And Ms. Hernandez? She's left.
All right. We'll be back.
Irma got it from me. Okay. Yeah.
session.
So, Chief Financial Officer, recommendation to approve the appointment of Carla Walter, Chief Financial Officer for the Sunnyside School Unified School District Business Department for the 2022-2023 school year, to be placed on step 16, return to work.
Second?
Roll call.
Ms. Dong?
Yes.
Ms. Nunez?
Aye.
Ms. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Next. Chief.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Chief Human Resources Organizational Development Officer, recommendation to approve the appointment of Kathy Sheppy, Chief Human Resources Organizational Development Officer for the Sunnyside Unified School District Human Resources and Benefits Department for the 2022-2023 school year, and be placed on step 14, return to work.
Second?
Roll call.
Ms. Dong?
Yes.
Ms. Nunez?
Aye.
Ms. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Sunnyside High School Principal, recommendation to approve the appointment of Stephanie Ponce, Principal at Sunnyside High School for the 2022-2023 school year, to be placed on step 15.
Can I get a second?
Second?
Roll call.
Ms. Dong?
Yes.
Ms. Nunez?
Aye.
Ms. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye. Congratulations.
Summit View Principal, recommend board motion to approve the appointment of Melanie Martinez, Principal of Summit View Elementary for the 2022-2023 school year, and be placed on step 1.
Second?
Roll call.
Ms. Nunez?
Aye.
Ms. Dong?
Yes.
Ms. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye. Congratulations.
Desert View Assistant Principal, Curriculum and Instruction, recommend to approve the appointment of Christina Swaim, Assistant Principal of Curriculum and Instruction at Desert View High School for the 2022-2023 school year, and be placed on step 1.
Second?
Roll call.
Ms. Dong?
Yes.
Ms. Nunez?
Aye.
Ms. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye. Congratulations.
Una más.
One
Sí.
more.
Sí. Desert View Assistant Principal, Freshman Academy. Recommended board motion to approve the appointment of Kristen Carter, Assistant Principal of the Freshman Academy at Desert View High School for the 2022-2023 school year, and be placed on step 5.
Second?
Roll call.
Ms. Dong?
Yes.
Ms. Nunez?
Aye.
Ms. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye. Congratulations. Congratulations, everyone. Do we have any suggestions for future agenda items? No?
No.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move we adjourn?
Second?
Roll call.
Ms. Dong?
Yes.
Ms. Nunez?
Aye.
Ms. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Good night. Congratulations.
Congratulations, everyone.